Have you ever felt a kind of sickness that wasn't physical? A pain deep in your soul? Well, we're going to dive into a 14th century guide from the scholar Ibn al-Qayyim that treats these spiritual problems with the seriousness of a doctor. And believe it or not, it offers a cure that feels incredibly relevant today. And get this wasn't some academic text written for other scholars. The entire book was written as a direct, compassionate answer to one person's cry for help. Someone was really suffering from a sickness of the heart, and they asked for a cure. That makes this feel less like a textbook and way more like a personal prescription for healing.
So, how does this 700-year-old prescription actually work? All right, first, we're going to look at the diagnosis, what the author sees as the root of all our problems. Then, we'll get into the consequences. And finally, we'll explore the cure, everything from the power of prayer to the practical steps on the path to getting better.
The core idea here is actually pretty simple, but it's really powerful. Our inner turmoil isn't just random. That anxiety, that feeling of being lost, it's not just in your head. Like a doctor diagnosing a physical illness, the author believed these spiritual pains have clear causes, they have visible symptoms, and, most importantly, they have a cure.
Okay, so what is this core disease? The author points to one single thing as the source of our suffering. And to prove his point, he doesn't just lecture us. He asks a series of really powerful questions, pulling from stories that many of us know very well.
He takes us way back, right to the very beginning. What was it that took humanity out of a state of total bliss and threw them into a world of hardship?
The answer? It's just one word. Stark. Simple. A sin.
He then asks basically the same question, but about another cosmic event. What caused a being of light to be cast out, completely banished from the heavens?
And again, it's the same answer. You can start to see the pattern he's building here, right? It's like he's laying down evidence brick by brick. And it's not just ancient stories. He points to history, too. What brought down the mighty Pharaoh and his entire army as the sea literally crashed down over them?
Yep, you guessed it, a sin. The point is becoming crystal clear. In this view, a sin isn't just a small, private mistake. No way. It's seen as a destructive force with real, devastating consequences out in the world.
This quote right here shows just how wide that impact is. The author believed these individual actions don't just stay with the person who did them. They ripple outwards, creating corruption on land and sea, affecting entire societies and even the world around us.
So if that's the disease, then what in the world is the cure? Well, it starts with turning back to God. The author introduces one of the most powerful remedies we have, supplication, or what's known in Arabic as dua. And look at how he frames it. Supplication isn't seen as just passive begging. The text calls it a weapon. Think about that. And like any weapon, its power isn't in the object itself, but it's in the hands of the person who wields it. It's about their focus, their sincerity, their conviction. This quote from an early Muslim leader, Omar, it just perfectly captures this huge shift in thinking. He's saying, look, I don't stress about if I'll get a response. I worry about whether I am truly able to ask in the first place. The idea is that if you're genuinely inspired to pray, the answer is already on its way. But the cure is more than just one single action. The ultimate goal, the real endgame, is to achieve this state of inner purity, what the author calls the sound heart. This is the real battlefield. So what exactly is a sound heart? Well, it's defined by what's been removed. It's a heart that's been cleansed of all these spiritual diseases, envy, arrogance, greed. These are the internal pollutants that corrupt us and, as the author puts it, cut us off from God. And to make these concepts feel real, the author uses these incredibly vivid metaphors. Anger isn't just an emotion, it's a live coal that's literally burning in your heart. And just like you'd use water to put out a fire, he prescribes specific spiritual actions like prayer and remembrance to extinguish that internal flame. And to help us guard that sound heart, the author gives us this really practical framework for basically auditing our own thoughts. He says every thought we have fits into one of these 4 boxes. The challenge for us is to consciously shift our focus away from the temporary, worldly stuff and towards the things with lasting, eternal consequences. And finally, the book makes a point that is absolutely crucial. Belief is not enough. Hope is not enough. True healing, the real path to recovery, demands action.
He uses this simple farming analogy to make his point. Hoping for salvation without doing good deeds is like a farmer expecting a huge harvest from a field he never even bothered to plant. It's illogical. Faith, he's saying, has to be cultivated through work.
So what's the right mindset for this journey? The author points to the earliest role models in his faith, and their defining feature wasn't pride in how pious they were. It was the exact opposite, a deep humility, a constant awareness of their own flaws, and a sincere fear of falling short. That humility, he argues, is the real engine for spiritual growth.
And so the book ends by turning the mirror on us. With this powerful metaphor, it says, our words are just like a spoon dipping into the pot of our heart. They reveal what's really boiling inside. So after 700 years, this medieval guide leaves us with a timeless and deeply personal question. What's in your pot?